Thank you for having me, and thanks, James, for letting me come along to your big night. I just want to say, folks, I feel like I've been waiting for James's book for a really, really, really long time. I've been seeing some of these poems over quite a span of time now. And I found that I kept wanting to show them to students, and it was always a bit awkward because then I had to write to James and say, do you mind if I share these few poems with a bunch of students? Because no one else is quite saying the things that he's saying in the way that he's saying them. It's going to be so good to be able to direct them to a book. That it's just lush. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. And I'm so excited to be here cheering it on tonight. So I'll just read for a few minutes. Thank you for the birthday wishes. It's been a nice day. I thought I would just share you a few poems from my ecosystem, because I think that's probably roughly analogous to what James will do eventually. And I guess there's lots of different ways of defining what your ecosystem, what your home scar is. But I want to start and finish with I don't know why particularly, I want to start and finish with a more general poem about, I suppose, the way we think about where we're at now, what we might be capable of, or and to think about hope a little bit, which I think is um, a complicated phenomenon to navigate, especially at the moment. So I'm going to start with a poem called Mortis and Tenon, which I haven't read in ages. And this is just about building my first gate here in Shetland. Mortis and Tenon. As soon as I decided to build a gate, the locked landscape uttered gates. Gates I'd never noticed before. Gates grew fast as bamboo, a yellow portcullis spruce with yoke-thick paint, the flexible hill gate, a curlew's wing. Two stout strainers at Gussygart promised to spruit a gate come spring. I begged chisels, several kinds of saws. I asked which way the brace should run to bear the burden of the hanging wing. On their notional hinges, gates unborn ached, until it was known as Gate, and mine the most debated gate in the aisle. I practiced, then fitted the difficult joint. A second coat dried. Oval knots blinked open the paint. What else might we dream before the godly eyes of gates, as Mortis knits to tenon with a tap, and gate after gate after gate sweeps wide its slow and drooping wing. I wrote that poem ages and ages ago. It's almost before I wrote any of the others in the book, and it feels almost like it's in a different language to the rest of them. And I thought it would be nice to give you a sense of how ethereal Shetland can be sometimes. It's a very real, rooted, grounded, creative, curious place, but every so often you have these moments of feeling like you're very close to touching other kinds of consciousness and experiencing of things. So I wrote this after the most amazing folk gig in Maria Lar cinema music venue here in Shetland, and I've been missing live music so badly. I hope we get going again with that soon. Hardanger fiddle and nickel harpa. So help me, I would rather write a song, a wordless song for the strings of the north. Hardanger fiddle and nickel harpa, like jewels hewn in flaxen wood, keys a delicate overbite. Elfish devices in mother of pearl, like nights the sea calms paler than the sky. Short bow light enough to touch the nerves of the north, fretful in a shiver of sympathetic strings. Feeling in the flat chests how close the night has moored to silence. Board wind gowling in the bars of the gate. Purr of surge when the night is still. So help me. Write a song of unsettling grace, perhaps an old folk dance, in a weird time signature, a gawky waltz, a lonely march, gone off at a tangent, popped back to say it was just a random thought, an interrupted cadence, a whistle under the breath. Grace is a really common name for a little girl in Shetland. There's quite a few quite old-fashioned feeling names here, and Grace pops up a lot, and I've always thought that would be a great name. There's so much grace here. So kind of ecosystems, I guess, are inherited from our families as well. We carry them with us, both in very real biological terms and I suppose in our characteristics and temperaments. This is called Granny Whose Gaze. Granny whose gaze was very much the moon half full is in her green coat in the hollywood. Granny whose gaze was very much the moon half full is not far off, second rung of the step ladder up in the boughs of the baking apple tree. Her gaze dwindling through its last quarter, Granny declared with unusual apology, I don't like to see the new moon through glass. At least I tend to think it's unlucky for me. Turning from her reflection in her clear dusk cardigan, because she couldn't abide to be idle and so prized the days she got a lot done. Little bit of very local ecosystem. This poem Wheelbarrow is just really it was so much a poem of the moment that in rewriting it, I kept trying to make it be about something, but it was really just the experience of pushing my friend's wheelbarrow up the hill from their house to my house, and we all took turns having a ride in it. But it felt like a sort of I don't know, it felt like it had resonances into the past and future somehow, I don't know how. You give me a hurl in the old iron wheelbarrow, then I give you a hurl, and at the cattle grid kelp you out, an awkward load of tailings and ore, and we laugh with stiff, out of practice faces. It's midsummer, midnight, everything's possible. The barrow's an ox sinking down on its knees. Before the alphabet, there is this barrow, a folded sheet of iron, 2 pipes, runs on a self-soothing, whimpering wheel. Good night, goats and sleep tight cider house. Good night, Leslie and the lass. It picks up speed with a sad gold rush whistle, skimming like an ancient ray, coughs rust and warbles now the long bray, complaining uncomplainingly like cattle slipped from their winter byres, beginning to hasten and leap just a little. Singing useful work versus useless toil. Here comes a heyday of deep black soil. It's just a funny little song, isn't it? And I'm just, how are we doing for time, folks? 2 more, do you think? Are we all right? Okay. I'll need to chuck in a marine animal because I really love marine animals, small and large. I've discovered that I've been having a lot of dreams about whales lately, which is partially James's fault and partially not. He sent me on a wild goose chase for 100 fin whales, which turn out to be off South Orkney in the southern hemisphere, not south of Orkney up here. But this is a smaller marine animal, a nudibranch, and it's a poem about skinny dipping in a rock pool in Shetland and seeing a sea hare, which is a type of nudibranch. And I'm just going to do a little screen share so that anyone who's never seen a nudibranch can see what they look like, because they're stunning. If you've never seen a nudibranch before, I like to think that I've just changed your life. Somebody here has made a necklace out of them, but these are real, and they're so beautiful. You get them all over the world. You get quite a lot around here. I've got a friend who's an expert in them. Let's see if I can find the sea hare that I'd like to read to you about. The sea hare is quite a modest one in comparison to these guys. Hmm. Well, I can't find one. He's brown and looks a bit like a hare, but he's a nudibranch. Yeah, I think I'll just let you imagine him actually. Okay, so it's a shape-shifting poem. Nudibranch. I ease my naked body down into the rock pool's closet, clinging to the vertical rocks with my soles, hanging a moment before I let myself fall. Slowly as a dim slip that shrugs off its hanger in a deep green changing room, air shouting silently from my struck lungs. I would try on the old clothes to see if they still fit. Dropping to the velveted floor, the seizing onesie of Brillo hair, the sweat sheath that horripilates with urchinous buttons, each breaking wave dousing me of costume, comfortably divested of my name. Perhaps still some permeable notion of self. Arabesques of albumen, prongs subliming to tender flame, condensing down to antlers, and weed, and warm, and warm, and weed. And I'll just finish up with my other kind of where are we at now poem. I don't know where we're at. I haven't known where we were at for quite a while, actually. It's quite hard to get your compass aligned at the moment, I think. Nettles. You tell me the hope is the worst, and I say yes, like nettles, the way they seize hold of the soil's dark meat. Out at midnight with the garden fork, I mean to eradicate hope, like an amputation of the nervous system. I will parse searing sea ferns clear of my body. But as I haul on this red hot rope, what I hear is the last chance clanking of a drawbridge. And as I drag this scalding root, each and every snapped off shoot spouts its many heads of hope. And to misquote, many waters cannot quench hope. So thanks very much, folks. I'm going to hand over to James. Really looking forward to it, Jamesy.
Thank you so much, Jen. That was lovely. Really, really lovely to hear. Sarah, could you put in the chat a link to Jen's The Stone Age? If you haven't read it yet, it's really, really worth getting hold of a copy. It's a beautiful collection, and always really amazing to be welcoming Jen onto Guillemot events. Thank you, Jen. And so, yes, as well as celebrating Jen's birthday, of course, we're here to celebrate the launch of James Goodman's Stone Mountain Fairy Shrimp. James is an environmentalist and poet from Cornwall, now living in Hertfordshire. His first collection, Claytown, explored the landscape around St Austell, the clay country around St Austell. And I have to say, I'm quite pleased to be introducing and welcoming James to the Guillemot fold partly for that reason. He's from the same neck of the woods as I am, basically the same town or around the same town as I'm from, and where my father worked in one of the clay dries in Parr, which is a job and a place that won't mean very much to many people here this evening, I suspect. But it's not an area known really for producing a great many poets. I think it's fair to say we can probably name one in the past 75 years, and it's amazing to be producing a poet of the caliber of James, and it's wonderful that he's allowed us to publish this beautiful work. So the book, which is James's second collection, I'll hold it up just here, has what I expect to be our title of the year, Stone Mountain Fairy Shrimp. It is a playful and uncompromising take on the sixth great extinction, with plenty of extraordinary species throughout, as well as its fair share of pigeons. So here to tell us more about it and to read from it, welcome and congratulations to James.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Luke. And and Jen, what a wonderful reading. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Wow, I'm honoured that so many people have joined. Hi, everybody. Great to see you. So I want to start just by thanking Luke and Sarah at Guillemot for taking my poems and turning it into this, which is now a thing, and it's chunky and square bound and beautiful and has a gorgeous illustration on the front of it by Charlie Sherratt, who unfortunately isn't here tonight, but and who also did some nice sort of wood pigeon sketches there as well, which I love. So thank you for the beautiful production, and it's been great working with you. You've really helped sort of, I think, draw out the spirit of what I was trying to do in this book. So thank you. And thank you also to Jen, who's helped me to form this book as well and has provided so much encouragement and support. And actually, long before we'd actually met and spoken, huge amounts of inspiration as a really phenomenal poet. So thank you very much. And for others who have helped with any of the poems that are in here, some of you are here now. Thank you very much. So I thought actually before I started reading, I would share my screen. This is sort of always a moment of tension, see if it works. So, so this is a fairy shrimp. Can you see that? Can people see that? That's a fairy shrimp. It's not a Stone Mountain fairy shrimp. I couldn't actually find a photograph of a Stone Mountain fairy shrimp. Others may be successful. I believe it was first identified in 1940 and last seen in 1951. So I'm not sure there are photographs of Stone Mountain fairy shrimps. This is a fairy shrimp. It's a female. You can see the egg sac there. And the fairy shrimp is a crustacean that lives in places a bit like, let's see if I can, yeah, a bit like this. So this is a temporary rainwater pool, which is on the surface of Stone Mountain, which is a rocky place in Georgia, USA. I've never been there. So these pools dry out in the summer and they fill with water in the winter. And the Stone Mountain fairy shrimp, or any fairy shrimp, they will breed and prosper and lay their eggs while there's water, and then they die. And then when the water dries out, the eggs desiccate and they can survive for quite a long time. And then when the rain comes back, they rehydrate and animate and hatch, and the whole thing starts again. So that is the world of the fairy shrimp right there, everything they see. So it actually doesn't appear very much in the collection, in fact, almost not at all. But that's what it's named after. Thought I'd just mention that. So first poem I want to read is for you is called It Was a Great Year. And this poem I wrote in 2016, 2017. So this book has been, it's taken a long time to get here. And this was in the wake of the Trump moment and the Brexit moment and so on. But 2016 was also a mast year. So it was a year of extraordinary abundance of berries and fruits and of certain species. So the hedge of sloes and blackberries and the trees were full of acorns and so on. And I thought that was kind of almost like it felt a response to what was going on elsewhere. So anyway, that's where this started from. It was a great year. It was a great year for butterflies and populists, for magpies and arsonists, for scrap and scree, for scram and arsenic, for oak apples, for oak processionary moths, for hunting bees, for wild swarms and honey, for seasons, each season being excellent and full in fuming harmony, for the fall, for not the quantity of snow, but the quality of snow, for objects, for their roll and swill, their swirling firmament, for stepping into the spinning flow, allowing it to fill your pockets like heavy air in high sails and lift you, a wind of keys and coins, and for looping orbits, long loping runs across the fields and pulling shy ellipses from those orbits, for Jupiter and having no real surface, and all the planets of the solar system and the shy planetoids. A great year for the red eye and to have no favorite color. A great year, love, for our permanent enclosure. A great year for fighting Wednesdays and Wednesday's wings, for ice and the permanent fracturing, and the course of bergs across the Southern Ocean. A great year for subjects, the string of maps, the great mess of history, and the epochs of malice, for the whistles of wood pigeon, the horde of culver, and for the covert hordes, for accents and the size of 100. Looking back, it was a good year, a masked year, for all on the street and their prosperity, with sound roofs and well mended, a great year, set fair for all. So it was a great year. Thank you very much. So I'd like now to read a poem. This is The Grateful Monkey. I spent a couple of years in Japan in my mid-20s, so a long time ago, and got quite interested in Japanese folklore. And so this is a poem which is a version of a Japanese folk story, The Grateful Monkey. When there is time, I will tell you about the monkey that lived in the mountains east from here. That there was a man walking through the forest who saw a monkey caught between the branches of a cedar, and he pulled apart the branches to free it. Though some say the man was walking through the forest and saw the monkey ill, its red face bleeding and purple, and gave it salving leaves. Though some say that the monkey burned its hands in the man's fire, trying to reach the chestnuts that were cooking there, and the man applied miso to relieve the wounds. Though some say that the man was searching the shore for seaweed and saw the monkey fighting an octopus and freed it from the sucker grip. Or was the monkey drowning in a rock pool with its feet pinched by crabs, as some say, and the man lifted it out? In any case, I will tell you that the grateful monkey encountered the man months later and led him away from a path that was slipping into a gorge. Or it brought fresh persimmons to the man when he had guests in his house. Or it washed the man's hair with rice water when he was bathing in the river. Or it fetched the man's daughter from an eagle's nest in the highest branches of the black pine. Or it killed a snake that was sleeping in the man's gown. Or it freed the man who was trapped under a dead horse. Or when a band of robbers arrived in the valley, it made armor for the man from resin and sand, as old monkeys do in times of war. Which of course everybody knows. So a lot of the poems here are kind of inspired or derived from the International Union for the Conservation of Nature's red list of endangered, critically endangered, threatened, extinct in the wild species, which I just found fascinating and a strange sort of trove of interesting language. And this one is one of those poems. So all of the species that are mentioned in the poem are from that red list, either endangered or critically endangered. And I've spliced them with items that are from the basket of goods that is used to calculate the consumer price index. This is called Morrow shoulder band. Morrow shoulder band, forest owlet, 8-gilled hagfish, oven-ready joint. Boccaccio rockfish, shiny pigtoe, Chucky Mad Tom, protein powder, overlooked squeaker frog, curved golden drop, turquoise-throated puff leg, electronic cigarette refill, Canterbury knobbled weevil, Napoleon jumping spider, Javan blue-banded kingfisher, non-white emulsion paint, radiated tortoise, elegant stubfoot, windswept helmet orchid, various selected biscuits, devil's hole pupfish, Zong's odd-scaled snake, leopard rocket frog, music streaming service, prairie sphinx moth, waved albatross, yellow-lipped grass anole, medium density fiberboard, Visayan warty pig, Kikuzato stream snake, bromeliad salamander, Cornish nettle yarg, Bobet crayfish, cracking pearly mussel, barred galaxius, rotisserie cooked whole chicken, bear shaver fringe-fingered lizard, glittering star frontlet, Atlantic helicopter, corn-based snack, White River spine dace, armored mist frog, chicken Kiev, Sclavo cycad, tequila split fin, chilled pot dessert, Mongolian saiga, Brazilian merganser, luggage, trolley case umbrella, Gilbert's potteroo, bent treacle mustard, replica football team shirt, magazine mountain middle-tooth snail, Sri Lankan relict ant, laminate floor covering, Brazilian guitarfish, Burmese starred tortoise, small kitchen appliance, Okinawa woodpecker, hire of domestic carpet shampoo, elusive skimmer, private dental examination, sharp snout torrent frog, wild birdseed, Quadrijugus vetch, inkjet cartridge, Mount Kahuzi African climbing mouse, ethnic takeaway, self-storage fee, fishing rod, barbecue, sleeping bag, baby grow, spearmint gum. That's quite hard to read. This sort of getting all of those names right is hard. So a bit more lyrical now. And by the way, I'd like to say, just call out for Luke and George, my sons, who are somewhere there. Please give us a wave. They're next door in our house. They're just over there. But, you know, they're not really staying up for this. It's not staying up yet, but there they go. Just a call out for them. So I wanted next to read something a bit more lyrical. And it's back to Japan. And it's Into Abundance. And this is called Address. And it's inspired by a place near the city of Sendai, where I lived for a year in northern Japan, called Mamushi-zan. And Mamushi is Japanese for, it's a sort of Japanese viper, bigger than an adder. So it's like Viper Hill, Viper Mountain. And I visited there thinking, you know, oh, it's just a name. But there were so many snakes. They were just everywhere. So that's where this one started from. Address. We raise a glass to Adder Hill, where in the upswing of the year, every grass blade is an adder, and adders melt the branches of the trees, and purr through moss, and coil in the blackbird's morning drill, and ease into the buzzard's grip and make off, and in the fox's jaws. In the uplift of the year, we raise a glass to all the adders here, basking in the dread new heat, making turmoil under and above the dry leaf, all the adders churning from other adders' mouths, the adders' smart forking. We put powder in the adder's keg. We drink and say the word that cures a bite. I say, your hammer is an adder, your gun an adder, your boots are tall adders. And all the adders shuffle sacks of sand around the hill, and we drink to them. We dare to take the snake must, the viper's sap, and make our adder wine, and raise a glass to Adder Hill, and the adder's vital muster, their hill-wide thrive, and the sprawl of their embroidery, and their stretched armada. In the year's fresh crawl out, In the year's first rustle, we down our shots of venom, our ready distillations, our cups stitched from scale and fang. We down the addled liquor, burning with the snake wound round its bolt. In the upswing of the year, we raise a glass to Adder Hill. I shall raise a beer. Thank you. Okay, so I think we're okay. Are we okay for time? I think we're okay for time. Okay. So this is a poem which is a walk and a conversation at the same time. A walk along a cliff and a conversation about the tidal and current dynamics of the boundary between the channel and the open ocean. And it's written in memory of my friend and a friend of some of the people here, Dylan Bright, who died in 2016. So it's for Dylan. It's called The Oceanography of the Western Channel. The dogs run off and data from acoustic Doppler current profilers, drifter trajectories, and short fluorescence and nutrient transects report. We follow them, a strong thermocline forming as the surface water heats, the brave and warm mists hanging on the open seas in summer. Under the blackthorn we go, where the stratified waters of the west meet the churned up waters of the east, onto the cliff edge, and the Ushant front builds. We take the steps down to the pebble beach, and wind drift currents in the top water, rile currents in the bottom water, making eddies deep in the column, to size the slates and quartzes that pull cool water up to the surface, water that high-frequency radar current measurements describe enjoying the light, and find flotsam wood for burning, and in the shoaling ocean, upwelling nutrients feed plankton that invite the cohorts of mega predators, and a sea-worn rope for a garden swing, and the water sinks back, holding pollen mixed with human breath and the moisture of breath, as well as its soot. We put ourselves into the shallows, charmed particles sinking down the layers, just up to our ankles, to fold into the benthic mud and silt, and observe the still surface of the sea. I wish we were doing this in person, so I could see you all and you can see me properly. Right, so I showed you the wood pigeons, and actually, I don't know whether you can see that. This is an accumulation of wood pigeon feathers, and especially for tonight. And I find wood pigeons fascinating because there's so many of them. Everything seems to be going, but wood pigeons remain. And I feel very ambivalently about them. They are fascinating and beautiful, and not just the one pigeon. So I'm disturbed by their abundance, as well as sort of heartened by it, I suppose. And I'm charmed by their companionship, but also a bit irritated by it because they're everywhere. So just find them intriguing. So there's a bunch of poems about that in here. In fact, there's an interlude in the book called Interlude, The Cushy Dove. And this, I'm just going to read a couple from here. This is Covert, Cuscut, Cowscut, Cushat. The buzzard fell from its orbit and was the familiar. The kestrel spilled its brimful cup and was the familiar. The jackdaw turned stern and undemocratic and was the familiar. The slow drift herring gull got tagged with urgency and was the familiar. The peregrine, bolt grey and sharp, blunted and blushed and was the familiar. The cuckoo, looping between the telegraph poles along the turfy track, was overtaken and was the familiar. The cloud of starlings, spectacle of formation, familiarized and was a hardly murmurating flock of the familiar. And all the variable mysteries falling from the sky turned out to be a cascade of the familiar. The victorious pigeons of the field. There in the field, the terrible and historic boredom of the wood pigeon host at rest. Audaciously bored in their victory, seated and stuffed into the grain of the land, multiplying blink by blink, two prosperous dollops, turning their heads, nonchalant and victorious, and efficiently iridescent at the neck and plump with their bright and bab colours all across this field and every field, their volume unmoving as I walk, vanquished, of a vanquished party between them. They don't part and only turn their heads and fluff a little, fat and fortunate as Triassic lizards, flood survivors, indolent and post-political, peace-burdened, with no further need of generals or statesmen, the richest culmination, the field-wide scope of boredom settling around them. And this one, luxuriating in the settled grain, heavy-lidded with heat, gulping air and gurgling as the froth of willow seed drifts in low light, slower than snowfall. This is depredations on the turnip field. Their direct flights are sorties and prompts, and the cushy dove is a military genius, and the cushy doe is an ear of corn with a bow tie, and a covey dove will become your chimney pot in a drizzle, but a doppy doody ringdoe in sunshine is ice cream and muscle. There's a few more wood pigeon ones in there, but I'm going to end now with this poem, which is called How Might We Climate Change? And there's a few people, there's one or two people from Forum for the Future, hello, where I used to work, and we would use this phrase, how might we, and it's from the design field and innovation field as a sort of a stimulus for creative brainstorming. So how might we do something? How can we sort of generate solutions to that? So this is called How Might We Climate Change? How might we climate change? How might we collapse of the North Atlantic thermohaline circulation? How might we giant methane belch from the soft and broken permafrost? How might we the pall of black carbon cast thickly over the Himalayas? And how might we deepening anoxic zones in the Bay of Bengal? How might we walking into a room? How might we walking home in the middle of the road? And how might we place our middle of the road conversation? How might we keep to the opposite of the speed limit? How might we play the game of roadkill, rabbit jerky, pigeon jerky, mole jerky? How might we walk among the overlapping spirits? How might we consider the gifts? How might we, taking the first and last words, construct a parallel story? How might we allow the plot line to? How might we, without terrible juncture? How might we, under such a bough, press flesh? How might we, as we walk down along, and wow, how might we the stripes of the zebra herd as it pulses across a golf course? How might we order the zebras to make sense of the rough? How might we consider each zebra a piece in a puzzle of semi-structured interference? How else might we reconsider the golf course? Okay, maybe that's a bit of a funny one to end on. I see Jen has asked for swallow. I could just do that, it's quite short. Should I do that, Luke, and then stop? Yeah. Swallow. This is another hard one to read. This is called Swallow. Swallow not met at swallow's meet. Swallow's beck, silent with the bird's gone chatter. The swallower left quick, risking naught at swallower's dare. Swallow's chirple lost down swallow lane. Swalwa, a whispered lie at Swalwa falls. No swalloway in the stalls at Swalloway's wager. Swalwa's view, a charm left by the Swalwa. Swallow heights, a swirl of swallow dust. Swalloway left and burdens us with winter. Swilway tipped the earth with its adventure. Let's stop there. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here and listening.